Let's the Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce, how you doing?
Hey, David. How are you doing tonight?
Good. I don't know if I have the right mic set up here. Let me just see. Can you still hear
Sounds
me? Can you?
sounds all right.
All right. Well, we'll just go with
Sounds
that.
fine.
Bruce, a very weird game in a lot of ways. The Oilers lost 6-3 to the St. Louis Blues. 12 penalties against the Oilers.
hmm
I think that the refs thought they were watching the 1974 Philadelphia Flyers in
No,
action.
they weren't actually, because with the Flyers would commit 40 fouls and they would call eight of them, and the other team would commit 12 fouls and they call seven of them. Whereas
This was a lot of penalties against the Oilers in a game
Philly
where
would overwhelm them with infractions and they
they
literally
would.
could not call them all.
That was literally, not figuratively, but literally, Fred Sherwood admitted it in words. Their
hmm
strategy
Yep.
was to commit so many fouls that the referees could not call all the penalties. Anyway,
Uh,
it worked. That was
Guess they
a
didn't
heck of
have the two referee system that we enjoy today, David.
a. There were some bad order penalties though too, like the Harney's flat or cross check in front of the net there. He's going to get
Mhm.
called on that.
Yep.
Anyway, Bruce, the Oilers had 20 grade A shots to 17 for St. Louis. And when it came to the five alarm shots subset that go in a third of the time, Edmonton had 12 and the Blues had nine. So it's fair to say that on top of everything else, St. Louis had some pretty damn good goaltending in this game.
Yep.
And they
Good.
did. Jordan Binnington was fantastic. And he was the difference. I think he was the difference in this game as much as anything, as much as the refereeing. It was Jordan Binnington
He was
play.
the better goalie by some distance.
He sure was. So, Bruce, this is our two good things, two bad things, two numbers and one conundrum podcast. We'll go with two bad things each because it was that kind of night. What's your good thing, though?
Yeah, well, I'll have to go with Edmonton's pushback late in the first period. Uh, when they scored first, but that was taken off the board by a call. And then St. Louis jumped ahead 1-0. It looked like the Blues were getting the better of it. And then Edmonton did actually get a power play. There was overlapping penalties, and when Draisaitl came out of the box to join the power play, and they executed very nicely indeed on that and scored. While Draisaitl himself scored the power play on a beautiful cross ice feed from McDavid, and then they kept coming. They got one more um, uh, power play where they were all over him, and uh, Binnington made two phenomenal saves on Hyman and a third on McDavid, all during the 2 minute power play. The two on Hyman, I suspect, will both be on the 50 plays of the month roll that they show on Sportsnet all month because they were both individually outstanding saves. But the Oilers kept coming, and finally, at even strength in the last minute of the period, Hyman uh, got a shot that again Binnington stopped, but this time Nuge was able to recover the rebound and jam it in to make it 2-1 Edmonton, and then they just barely managed to make it to the buzzer with 2/10 of a second or so to spare with the 2-1 lead. But that was about the end of good things for Edmonton Oilers in this game.
Yeah, on that one power play, the Oilers had five grade A shots, and three of them were five alarm shots. It was a
Yeah.
heck of a sequence on the power play. Dreisaitl's goal on the previous power
hmm
play was fantastic. It was what I call
hmm
a tabletop hockey goal, where in the old some of the old sets of tabletop hockey, you'd put it over the winger and you just or into the slot and you just slam it in as hard as you could, the centering
hmm
pass. This was to the wing, but it was just so automatic, the shot. It was just slammed home. Fantastic goal by Leon Draisaitl. Bruce, my good thing is Corey Perry's goal in the third period that made it 5-3 and temporarily gave the Oilers a little bit of hope, at least. Um, he really is a great crease player, and you can see it. Like now that I'm focused on him, he just really is there all the time, making it hell on the goalie. And I think he threw Bennington off on that one. He just like the puck goes back to the point on that one, and Kulak puts a shot on net off. There's two nice board plays to start it all off, I should say, by Draisaitl and McDavid. Were both one puck battles, puck protected, and make nice passes. Kulak takes the shot. It's tipped slightly, and he's just there because he's on Binnington as close to illegal as you can get in the NHL without being illegal. And I think he's actually really excellent at that, to the point where the first goal that was called back was really close. I mean, I think it was the correct call, but man, Perry makes it close. He makes it difficult for the refs because he just really works it. He knows the rules, and excuse me, he exploits them. And in this one, he got the tip shot before it hit the net, and he wrapped it around Binnington with a great goal. So it was his first goal as an Edmonton Oiler. I've heard some speculation who would score first, Corey Perry or Connor Brown. Poor old Connor Brown. We just 3 minutes after that, the Oilers' last real gasp at the game was Connor Brown. His chance where he deked the goalie and put it off the crossbar.
He did everything perfect.
He did everything perfect except score. Anyway, Corey Perry did everything perfect and he scored. And Connor Brown, it's not his game, Corey Perry's game. They play different games. Yeah. So I'm not going to tell him to emulate Corey Perry. But if you're that player, boy, Corey Perry has that style of play perfected. And now the Oilers have kind of three guys in Kane, Perry, and Hyman who are all pretty good at that style of game. And that could make a difference in the playoffs. If you have one of them on each line, that could prove to be very effective in the playoff run that's hopefully upcoming.
That's a whole lot of net front presence by the time you add the three of them together.
Yeah, we just missed
three separate lines.
Yeah.
One per line is just right for net front.
Yeah.
Merchants.
Indeed. Bruce, what's your first bad thing?
Yeah, well, it's got to be the opening sequence of the second period. And Edmonton came out with their top line of, it was McDavid, Hyman, Nugent-Hopkins, Ekholm, and Bouchard. And against St. Louis's, I guess it was the Braden Shen line that started the period. And anyway, St. Louis just took total ownership of the play right from the face-off. They forced it into Edmonton's zone. Oilers got a chance to clear it, and Hyman got it, and he was able to just weakly dump it out into the center zone where St. Louis just picked it up and poured right back in. Like he had clear possession, and instead of getting to center and making the dump and, maybe at least change somebody out. And so St. Louis poured right back into Edmonton's zone again, and there they remained. And I'm just looking at the play-by-play here. St. Louis wins the face-off, so it takes them 25 seconds. And their second time in the zone, they get a shot that's blocked by a teammate. Then St. Louis gets three consecutive shots that miss the net from 47 and 24 feet. Then they miss, a fourth time. Then the sixth shot attempt of the period is a deflection on net from Shen on a tip-in from 7 feet out. And then the seventh shot is a goal. And so it's 1 minute and 9 seconds where St. Louis has 7 shot attempts to 0. And they just get progressively more dangerous. First one's blocked. The next 4 are unblocked, but they miss the net. The next one is a shot on goal that's saved. And then the last one, of course, the shot on goal that isn't saved. It just went down, 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 down. And at no point did it seem like any Oiler was particularly interested in winning a battle or maybe getting a hold of a puck or, maybe knock somebody down, box them out. There's a few different sort of defensive strategies in the game that just weren't very much in evidence during that sequence. And that whole set of plays, and that same unit got owned again for the third goal a couple of shifts later.
Wasn't much
But
different.
that was the one that set the table for this is a game where St. Louis just wants it more than Edmonton was my takeaway from that shift, because there just wasn't Edmonton wasn't joining the battle, and St. Louis was just taking it to him, and Edmonton was like fully on the back feet, and it was 2-2, and it was sort of here we go, and that was just the beginning of a very, very bad period for Edmonton. Probably the worst period since the first period at Carolina, I'm thinking. Oh, and they gave in 4 goals in 15 minutes. Well, this one they lost 4-0 in one period.
Yeah, and as you say, the next goal was the same line, and it was a similar kind of situation where they got caught running around and watching and getting outworked. And it's funny as you're watching it, I'm looking for obvious mistakes. They're just small ones, really, and they're not obvious, a lot of the mistakes, because no one's really getting beat badly, or it's just no one's winning a battle. No one's anticipating better than the other team. No one's on their toes and getting to the puck first. Yeah. It's always they're just a bit passive all of a sudden in their defensive coverage. Bruce, my first bad thing is Connor McDavid's play on the penalty kill late in the second. He was sent out. I guess everyone else was pretty exhausted by then, killing penalties. But he had
hard to get exhausted in 10 seconds and you give in a goal, David. Maybe the coach was looking for a different solution.
A goal. Well, maybe they wanted a goal anyway. But anyway, they put out McDavid. They don't usually do it. They tried it. And the reason I'm singling him out, it's not because he and McLeod allowed cross-seam passes. There's 2 cross-seam passes leading up to the goal, where CC in the end was left covering 2 guys in front, and that's a pretty tough job. But so both McLeod and McDavid allowed that by allowing these slicing passes through the Edmonton zone. But just before then, Connor McDavid, the best player in the NHL with a puck on his stick, won the puck on his stick in the slot area. And if there's one guy you think is going to get it out of the Oilers' end in a key moment like that, it's Connor McDavid. And he kind of put I think it was a backhander, kind of a lame backhander off the boards, and it didn't get, not even close to getting out. So that's a pretty major error in a pretty big moment. It's 4-2 then. It's not likely the Oilers can come back, but man, it's super unlikely when it's 5-3 and there's a goal in the last minute of the period. That just is such a crushing play for the Oilers, and they never really did recover from that. So that's my first bad thing. What's your second?
David, I got to talk about the men in stripes tonight. I didn't think that this was a fairly officiated game. And the game summary sure would seem to back me up. Oilers got, let me see now. They did get 2 power plays in the first period and a partial power play. They scored on the partial power play, and then on the third one, they came so close, and Binnington made all those saves. And it was like the referees collectively went, "Oh my goodness, Edmonton's power play is too good. We can't give them any more for the entire rest of the game." And meanwhile, tweet, ticky-tack, ticky-tack, ticky-tack on Oilers. Left, right, and center, 7 penalties in a row in the last 2 periods, including 6 in the last 25 minutes of the game. Oilers spent 12 of the last 25 minutes killing penalties. Or I guess there was goals scored in there that shortened a couple of them. And some of the penalties that they were calling some of them were penalties, no doubt. In fact, maybe even many of them were penalties. But there were some borderline ones, and Edmonton did not get a single borderline call. They sure didn't get one when Kane got tripped in the third period. They sure didn't get one when Draisaitl got tripped right before the empty net goal. But boy, if an Oiler looked sideways at a guy, Vinny Desharnais got 4 penalties, and one was definitely deserved. One in the corner, like they called him for elbowing. And what did he do? Like, did he even touch the guy? And then he got an extra 2 minutes for arguing with the ref on the way off. And at a certain point, the ref might be thinking, well, we've screwed these guys with 6 penalties in a row. Maybe I should just shut up and listen while this guy lips me off a little bit. But no, let's give him another penalty. And it was just, so there's that. there's a goal they disallowed to start the game, which I honestly think Edmonton should have challenged because Perry did get pushed in by Krug. I mean, he made a meal of it, but he got pushed into the crease by the defenseman, which is technically what they usually. And so anyway, I don't know what the ref said to Corey, but they found something to say to Corey that they couldn't say in 2017. So that kind of got my dander up a little bit. And then there were the icings. And there was a critical play in the second period where Edmonton iced the puck, and Jack or Louis was saying, geez, I can't believe they didn't give him center. And I'm going, I can't believe they didn't say Kane was going to win the race to the puck. And they called icing. And sure enough, they lose the face-off. St. Louis gets a cycle. Edmonton takes a penalty. Then St. Louis gets a face-off. They got another cycle and a goal. Like literally from the moment that icing was called, the puck never left Edmonton territory until it was in net. It was 2 whistles later, and it's hard to make the connection. But anytime I think there's a crappy icing call, I'm always watching anxiously until the next time the puck leaves the zone. It didn't. And then in the third period, the Oilers were like all over St. Louis for the first minute and a half. And the St. Louis guy is sucking wind, and he fires one down the ice, and the Oilers like 15 feet behind it. And that's icing, or not icing. They wave it off. And it's like, hey, wait a minute. Are you the same guy who called that one in the second period, and you're saying this one isn't? Like, be a little bit consistent. Holy crap. Anyway, it's not the reason they lost. St. Louis was a better team, but the Stripes had a brutal game, and they deserved to be called out for it. So that's my second bad thing.
I didn't even know. Like, I always thought for unsportsmanlike conduct, is that what Desharnais got on his second penalty there?
Yeah.
That was a 10-minute misconduct. Like, you get a 2-minute penalty now? I mean, don't they usually give 10-minute misconduct? And, that's their way of solving it elegantly, because it doesn't hammer the whole team, because nothing to do with the game, really, just unsportsmanlike conduct has happened. Okay, punish that player, 10 minutes to think about it, take him out of the game. But to punish the Oilers in that moment, I guess it's 2 minutes is obviously possible. I just
kick him unsportsmanlike conduct. All he did was talk to him. I mean, I don't know what he said. I mean, he could have said something brutal. Who knows? And we might find out. On the other hand, we'll never get any explanation from the league or the officials or anybody who's putting on this product that we fans are paying to consume to explain to us why one team got 7 penalties and the other team got none in the last 40 minutes of this game. Like, you just don't see that. Well, the last 7 in a row.
Okay. Is that just my imagination, Bruce, that they usually get a 10-minute misconduct for unsportsmanlike conduct, or do you see 2 minutes often? I don't.
Not often. They very rarely call it, and they usually don't call it against the team they've already called 5 straight times. I will say that, and they did here. So they had a bad game. Chris Rooney, Jordan Samuels Thomas were the refs. Tyson Baker and Killen McNamara were the linesmen. And they should be obliged to rewatch this game and repent for their sins.
All right.
Anyway, probably better to get shafted in a game where you deserve to lose anyway, as opposed to have refs take away a game where you deserve to win, but they gave the other guys, enough calls. Anyway, Edmonton could have got back in this game, but
my bad thing is just some of these mixed goals that the Oilers had, and starting with Hyman's 2 on the power play in the first, man, and then Connor Brown's play in the third, which we mentioned these things already, but if you just score, if you can figure out a way to score, and sometimes you can't because the goalie's good, and sometimes you can't because of, and some people hate this idea of puck luck. But Bruce, it's frustrating when they did have 20 grade A shots this game. They could have won this game with better puck luck or weaker goaltending. Now, the goaltending is part of the game, but I know some people don't believe in puck luck or don't think it should be talked about or don't think it's part of the game. It definitely is. We have been doing this work with grade A shots now since 2010. We have seen closely, and we've seen replays of grade A shots up the yin yang. And I'll tell you what, there's often so little difference between a goal and a missed shot, or a goal and a block shot, or a goal and a save. It's just fractions. What was that saying you had the other day from the Battle of the Inch, or something like that,
The
from
wrong
British
side
soccer?
of the inch.
The wrong side of the
It's
inch.
also a golf turn. It's like another golf turn is the rub of the green.
Well, the
Uh,
rub of the ice
yeah,
and the
it's a
yeah,
thing. It is a
it
thing.
it, it is
Can't deny.
totally a
If you do
thing.
deny it, you're, you
It
know,
just it often comes down. Hockey games often come down to luck, puck luck. And did this game, not so much, because Binnington really was good. He was fantastic, and Stuart Skinner wasn't.
nope.
But if Connor Brown somehow manages to ring that in to the net off the crossbar instead of out of the net, with about 5 minutes left, the Oilers are just down one goal, and have a real opportunity to come back if they don't get another penalty, that is. So, yeah, it was. I guess my bad thing is the puck luck. There was a little bit of that going on tonight for the Oilers. Probably the Blues could complain about the same thing, but it hit the Oilers at a key moment, and it sure hammered poor old Connor Brown one more time.
Yeah, well, puck luck is chaos at the quantum level. I mean, it's sometimes literally the angle at the edge of the puck strikes the ice,
Yeah.
or who it hits on the way in. Like the pass that deflected off of Bouchard's stick and right to Robert Thomas for the first goal. Now that is puck luck. Like a puck went right across the face of goal through a lane that hadn't previously existed, right to the goal scorer. And that's just, it happens. You just got to accept that it's part of the game.
Yep.
Just like you have to accept the crappy officiating as part of the game. Anyway, I'm sure it was in this game. Uh, Here's, by the way, natural stat trick. They had Edmonton with 52% of the shot attempts, 53% of the unblocked, 56% almost of the shots, 55% of the scoring chances, 55% of the high danger scoring chances, and 53% of the expected goals, all in favor of Edmonton tonight.
They
4
were
points,
similar. Yeah.
4.6 to 4.1. Like that's a very high number of expected goals, and it was a high
Yeah.
scoring game. And I mean, our chance is 20-17, second game in a row with that inflated count.
The Oilers' defense is disintegrating. Um, what's your number, Bruce?
The Oilers' defense is disintegrating. My number, David, is the Oilers. Between Christmas and the end of January break, went 14 straight games allowing 2 goals or fewer. Since they come back from the break, they are 0 for 5. They gave in 3 with an empty net goal, almost made it that game. Then they gave in 3 to the Ducks, then 4 to the Kings, then 4 to the Red Wings, and now 6 to the Blues. And so all of a sudden, it's 20 goals against in 5 games, which is a 4 goals against per game average. And they've done well to come out of it with 2 wins and 3 losses, because that's just
Yeah,
too many goals against.
sure is. My number is 243 compared to 733. 243 is the average ice time that Darnell Nurse plays on the penalty kill in one game. Tonight he played 733.
Wow.
And that's a lot of minutes on the PK. Those are hard, strenuous minutes. It also indicates that your team was called for a lot of penalties. So, yeah.
Doesn't help when the penalties are 5 of them are to defensemen, 4 to
Yeah.
DeHarnay and 1 to Ceci.
Yeah. Yeah, DeHarnay had been saying the other game that he had done a good job of not taking those kind of super aggressive penalties. The first one he took with the cross check in front of the net was a super aggressive penalty. He's going to get called on all day. He can't get away with it. So, and he's been laying off it, I think, generally speaking. Maybe even more, like I think he is genuinely picked on because of his size and reputation and for those kinds of penalties. But yeah, he's going to have to lay off it more than other defensemen will, because he will be hammered. Bruce, the conundrum is the Oilers' defense. Okay, so it was really, really good for a long time. Then they split they split up the defense pairings and solving a problem that didn't need to be solved, and now they put them back together and they're worse. What what's going on? What do you think's going on? And is there a way to get back to the way they were for about 2 months when they played really solid defensive hockey? At least 6 weeks, 6 weeks of outstanding defensive play. Is this just how do you read it? Is this just a little blip, or is this situation normal for the Oilers, just like last year when they couldn't defend and hold a lead and were rancid on defense most of the year?
Well, it's definitely a little blip, and you can't expect the team just to stay on this long, long high run.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm happy in the sense that they've been able to stop 2 losing streaks in a row at one by winning one. It'd be nice to win 2 or 3 and kind of restabilize that way. But the defense, and I understand the idea between switching them around, and ultimately the idea was to see if DeHarnay and Nurse worked as a pair, and they didn't particularly, but the regular pairs that they went back to haven't looked exactly shiny. The last 2 games, tonight, I thought Bouchard and Ekholm were having all kinds of trouble out there, and that whole unit wound up -2 on the night, and that was after they'd scored a goal. And so it was, they've just gone stale, and I think it's sort of top to bottom stale. And not just the defense, but team defense. And they're just not dialed in for more than a period here and there.
I think the NHL is full of really talented players, packed full of talented players and talented teams with little to separate them. And if you're not totally dialed into playing defensive hockey, you're going to go on a run like this. And the Oilers I thought they had it down, and I think they will get it back. So my answer is this is a blip. That I think we're going to see it again when we need to see it. Really super strong defense, but they need to make it more of a regular habit. They were working hard on the attack. I still think they're working really hard on the attack. I don't think the Oilers are getting outworked in that area. They're really going for it, putting up a lot of grade A shots still in these games, but they're a little bit passive and watching at even strength, and cavalier on the PK, and it's resulting in all these goals against. But I saw it for a long enough period of time that I was encouraged to think these guys know they had a real good taste of it. They know how to do it, and they're going to get back to it, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, well, the schedule is not really their friend just now. Like there's not. They had a steady diet of teams that were out of the playoffs, and now for this next while, mostly they're playing against teams that are in the hunt, like St. Louis were tonight. I mean, give St. Louis credit; they'd won 7 of their prior 9 games coming into this game, and they were the better team on balance, to my eye.
Yeah,
tonight.
They don't have the break, Bruce, but they do have that stat you pointed out: the 3-3, 4-4, 6 goals against in the last 5 games. For conscientious people and responsible players, which I think this is a veteran team, and they are that will weigh on them. That's going to start building. That should get their attention. I think, okay, each person on the team thinking, what am I doing wrong? What can I do differently? That kind of thing. And I think that's probably the process they're going to going through. So you're right. They don't have a break, but they have the misery of losing and the misery of being crappy again in their own zone, which haunts this team now, I think. Which I think is a real thing for this team, because not only was it in the playoffs last year against Vegas, not only was it too much of last season, it was the terrible start to this season. So I think that I'm guessing, and I have no idea. I'm not around the team. I listen to some of the interviews. I don't even listen to all the player interviews. I listen to most of the coach interviews, though. But I'm just guessing that they are haunted by that it is a real thing. with this Oilers team, and they're going to get it together again defensively.
Yeah, I expect so. And whether, they make some kind of move in between times, I mean, just doing nothing but raise a little bit of pressure on management to say, well, if this isn't working, what will? But like I say, I think it's probably a temporary dip. But it'd be nice to see a real solid 60-minute effort in one of these games, because I'm not sure we've seen one yet since the All-Star break.
Whatever player they bring in, Bruce, I want him. I just think it's really important that he's a super solid defensive player. I'm not that interested in just another offensive hockey player. I don't think that's the answer for the Oilers. I think what they need is personally, I think what they really need is a super solid third line center who's a great defensive player and a really aggressive hockey player. And that's what would make a difference on the Oilers. That would also free up Ryan McLeod to play the wing, where I think he's better. I'm surprised you actually haven't seen McLeod back with Draisaitl, because that line was fantastic for a while, and then suddenly they went away from it. I'm not even sure why. So I wouldn't mind seeing McLeod given another chance with Draisaitl, but
And Fogle.
And Fogle was that the third guy on that line, or was it Kane? Okay, yeah, go back to that line. It worked. It was a hard-working line. But in terms of trade, that's what if they're gonna, and it sounds like they are really hunting for that player. I don't know who that center is. I don't know if he exists, if he's even on the market right now. But I suspect on one of these teams not making the playoffs, and that number's growing ever bigger, and it's sinking in with different teams now that they're not making it, they should be able to find such a player.
Yeah, well, it's not a race, because every day they wait, they accrue cap space, and whoever they're bringing in, they have to pay them one fewer day. So, the math suggests the trade you make right on the deadline allows you to maximize your cap space and bring on the most expensive, addition into your payroll. However whoever you send out and bring back, they can add more and more dollars each day between now and the deadline. And it obviously, you can't do anything after that. But at that point, they could take on something like $2.4 million in extra salary compared to the roster they have now.
So if they sign a player who earns $4.8 million a year, essentially, and if the other team eats half of that, they could almost afford a $5 million a year player if things go as we expect.
Or they could send out a $1 million player and bring in a
There you go.
$3.25 million player to replace him. There's different ways you can do that. So
how much does Boone Jenner make?
3.8 or something.
How many more years does he have?
He's got a couple more years.
Oh yeah.
Columbus finally fired Jarmo Kekalainen today.
Yeah.
After 11 years on the job with not a lot of success to show for it. But
well, I'm guessing that makes them less likely to trade a player like Boone Jenner.
Maybe the new guy comes in and decides to clean house.
Get some draft picks.
Yeah. Maybe they bring in Cliff Fletcher in Toronto to just get rid of everybody so that the new GM next year can come in with a clean slate.
Boone Jenner, 30 years old, has 2 more years at $3.75 million after this year. So
if he was a right shot, he'd be really good fit. But even as a left shot, he's But in a perfect world, you get that guy down the lineup and he shoots right and he can kill penalties and win faceoffs. And if you get that guy, that was Bukestad last year. He checked all those boxes. And they got him cheap because they even had him retained way below the NHL minimum. So, there's things that can be done. And Holland has shown in the past, despite his reputation of not being very creative, I thought that deal to get Bukestad was
creative.
Pretty advanced. Yeah, like he had literally used every dollar of his cap space And the only reason he had enough was that he worked out that Nashville retained 250,000 on Ekholm, and didn't like at the time think, well, 250,000, that gives them 450K. That's not even one player. Well, it's one player with 50% retained, which is what it was in the end. And so there was a method to all of that madness. So
Indeed.
Ideally, they find somebody like that again and maybe pay a little extra to get some of it retained and get the guy in even a little bit cheaper.
Bruce, let's leave it there. Thanks for talking tonight.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Rant and all.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.